Hey, gals and guys, this is Michael Ferrari of Cinema to Meep. Welcome to the 35th bonus Patreon episode. Feels like a milestone, 35. Joining me today on this little bonus Patreon episode adventure is my good pal, David Nofire. Welcome back to the podcast, David.
Thank you so much. It's been a while. I think it's been like 3 years since we've done one.
Wow, has it been that long? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We were gonna do a Christmas horror one, and I think plans kind of fell through. It being Christmas and all that year, we just weren't able to do it. But yeah, I think it was like Halloween teen horror was the last one we did.
Oh wow, that's been a while then.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you can come back. And when I was thinking of this episode, what to do for this episode, I'm like, I need to have David on for this one because I feel like you're a big fan of these movies and teen movies in general, and I just really wanted to hear what you had to say about them. So I'm glad you can come on and talk about them.
Oh, thanks for thinking of me. Yeah, I'm excited.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about Savage. We're calling it the Savage Steve Holland trilogy. That's really just the three movies that he did in the 80s that we love so much, and that really left a mark on, I would say, teen film. Even though you can, even college films, teen films, and they really kind of left an impression, like whereas a lot of the teen films of the time didn't quite do that. We enjoy a lot of them, but some of them were maybe a little bit run of the mill or didn't quite have as much personality, whereas Savage Steve Holland definitely left an impression with his very extreme quirkiness and point of view. And so it left such an impression on us that I just really thought it would be a good idea to talk about these three movies, but also to celebrate the Blu-ray release of One Crazy Summer. Now, One Crazy Summer just finally landed on Blu-ray from Warner Archive, and we need to rejoice because it's the 35th anniversary of One Crazy Summer, and it definitely deserved a Blu-ray. Now, Better Off Dead got a Blu-ray release a few years ago, and then of course How I Got Into College, much like the movie itself, it's been kind of forgotten. So that only has a DVD release, and it's an out-of-print DVD release. And even worse news, it's a 20th Century Fox movie, so who knows what's going to happen to that movie. I really feel like it's gone. It's definitely fallen through the cracks of time. And since Disney owns 20th Century Fox, we're probably not going to see anything future home video release of that. So, which is sad. But let's celebrate the 35th anniversary of One Crazy Summer, the 36th anniversary of Better Off Dead, which is coming up in a few days. That came out in October. Let's enjoy these movies while we still can, and while they're still available on home video to watch in your home. So let's besides that, let's get into just what we've been watching lately. I don't have a lot, but I know you have been watching things, and I know you've been going to see things at screenings, and I really want to hear about those adventures. Please tell us.
Sure. Yeah, I've been going to a lot of things. Last night I went to Oklahoma City which is like a 100-mile drive just to watch RoboCop.
Love it.
So it couldn't say no to that. And here recently I've gone to a few others. There's a drive-in screening series going on right now at the local drive-in, and I saw Poltergeist last week, and then this week was Dawn of the Dead. Next week is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is the big one for me because that's the true drive-in movie of the bunch.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, John Carpenter's The Thing. And then I'm going to go to LA for a few days and a couple days and squeeze in a few movies at the New Bev as well.
Nice. What are you going to see at the New Bev?
I'm going to see Monster Squad and Harold and Maude, and a double feature of William Castle's 13 Ghosts and House on Haunted Hill.
Wow, that's a great lineup, and that really is. Seeing those movies at the New Bev in October for Halloween, I think it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, they had a really great lineup, and I didn't know what movies would be playing when I was going, but I'm actually going to another couple cities, and I just added an LA leg. And so I thought, whatever I'm there for, it's going to be good.
Pretty smart. If you're ever anywhere near LA, you have to drop into the New Bev and see what's going on. Now that they're back and programming is, it's been better, as good as has been, but maybe even better than ever. So I think that's it's definitely something that I want to do when I'm in California. Hopefully over the holidays, we'll see, and try to stop in LA and take in some screenings.
For sure. As far as new movies are concerned, I've seen pretty much everything that's been out. I've liked a lot of movies, nothing that I've really loved, new movies. But I think that there are some that are certainly notable and worth talking about. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but have you seen Malignant?
Yeah, I did see Malignant. I only seen a couple of the new movies, and only because they were available to watch at home. So I haven't been able to get out as much. So tell us about Malignant. What did you feel? What did you think about it?
That's definitely one that when I was done watching the movie, I wanted to talk about it with other people, and whether or not you liked it, I want to hear what you have to say. We don't have to we're not going into spoilers or anything like that, but it just, when I was done with the movie during the credits, I had a smile on my face. It's not a perfect movie, I think it knows what it's doing, and it was fun for me, but I don't know. It definitely went places I was not expecting.
Yeah, it gets. I didn't realize it was going to be like a body horror kind of movie. Yeah, I kind of didn't know what I was going to get into with that one, which is nice. I didn't connect to it. I felt like it could have been more of James Wan's attention to details. Like, I feel like he's really good at that. I feel like there were a lot of holes and things that he kind of skipped over to get to the more gruesome stuff that happens in the movie, which is fine. And it reminds me greatly of kind of 80s movies in that regard, that kind of forego plot and logic and, stuff to just for gross out stuff, which is great. And I do appreciate those movies, but it just wasn't the movie that I was kind of expecting from him. So, but I'm kind of glad that it exists anyway.
Right.
It's definitely I feel like I should rewatch it and go in now knowing what I know what it is. Okay, I'm not going to expect something else. I'm just gonna, this is what it is, and I'm gonna enjoy it that way. So I guess I need to rewatch it instead of just sitting there and picking it apart a little bit, because I'm like, oh, this is not going where I thought it was going to go.
It's definitely a movie that can be picked apart.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this one. I gotta be honest, but yeah, definitely. I think maybe a multiple viewing kind of movie to appreciate it more.
Yeah, and as far as new stuff's coming out, I'm very excited about that Sopranos movie coming out Thursday.
Yeah. So the kids are really excited for the Addams Family too, because they loved the first animated Addams Family. So we have to go see that. But I'm personally excited for the Sopranos movie, which of course is a prequel to the series. And I'm really anticipating. I feel like I haven't heard a lot of buzz. I feel like there isn't a lot of buzz. I don't know if that's because of the divide now that there is between people going to see things in theaters and people, electing to stay home and seeing them on HBO Max or whatever. So I feel like I haven't heard a lot of people super excited about it. So I'm glad to hear that you are, though.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. I think that's probably the most anticipated movie for the rest of the year for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've been rewatching this series. That's what. So when I talk about my recently seen, it's basically The Sopranos, because I've been rewatching. I'm on season 5 right now, so getting close. So once that's wrapped up, I'll be watching the movie when it comes out. So super excited for that. It's I know you don't need to watch the series to watch the prequel, but it's kind of. I kind of like working a little bit backwards in this case because it's been a while since I've rewatched the show. So it'd be nice to see like some of these characters appear in the movie as their younger versions. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some nods that people who've seen it can appreciate, but I'm sure that on another level, people who are coming in cold can take it for what it is.
Yeah, and I understand that it goes into different territories that the show didn't really dwell on. It's going to take a look at. It's going to be really grounded in its time period and the events that happened in that time period, especially those the riots that happened in Newark. So I'm going in knowing that, which I think is what might be handy for a lot of people who are expecting a full Sopranos movie. Should probably understand that it's really it's commentary on race relations as well, which the show didn't really dive into that much. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out. So
yeah. High expectations. So I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that it or?
I think that, yeah, I mean, pretty much that's those are kind of the main things that I've been doing lately, just going to movies. A lot of them have been, the retro movies, which there have been a lot of them around playing recently. And there's been a secret movie series at Cinemark, and now AMC is doing that as well.
Oh, wow.
So I like to go in cold for those. One week I had my hopes up. I had like a little hint, and I was hoping, I was like, it's not gonna be Midnight Run, is it? And then I had to kind of like figure out what it was going to be, because I didn't want to be disappointed that it wasn't Midnight Run, sitting there. It was actually Out of Sight, but which is a really good movie too. But
right.
But yeah, the thought of seeing Midnight Run on the big screen was just too exciting to not know. I had to find out.
Yeah. I'm going to take a look at what's screening here. I know Friday the 13th and Carrie are coming up really soon. Carrie for its 45th anniversary, which I know I have to be there for that. But other than that, I don't think there's too much in the way of screenings, at least locally for me, unless I venture out a little further away, which I've been doing a lot of lately. But I definitely want to, the top of my list, is the Soprano, the Many Saints of Newark, of course, and then I do want to watch the new Clint Eastwood movie. I know that's playing on HBO Max. I might watch it that way, which might be sacrilege, but and then I know my son wants to watch the new Venom movie, which is not my thing personally, but he's really into the first one. So
yeah, not my thing either. But the trailer looked fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there could be worse things that I could watch. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. And I guess, there's the James Bond movie coming up, Halloween Kills, which I'm curious about. And then, of course, the Edgar Wright movie is coming up in October, right?
I think it's the 29th. So, yeah, a month away.
Yeah, nice little Halloween treat. Seeing an Edgar Wright movie, especially one that's kind of horror-ish, looks like. And then so I'm happy about those. The only other thing I would say that I watched recently that's new was the Candyman movie, which I did not enjoy, unfortunately. I was curious about it, of course, being a huge fan of the 1992 film. And even liking the sequel, part 2. So I rewatched the third one, which I don't remember seeing at all. And the third one is not a good movie. Candyman 3 is not a good movie at all. So I just I don't even know if I finished it, but I went to see the new Candyman movie. And of course, it kind of functions as a sequel to the first movie, I guess. Sort of. I don't know. It just didn't quite gel with me. I understand what it was trying to do, and it was what it was trying to comment on, but it didn't feel like it felt like the whole Candyman legend was trying to be retrofitted. too much. Like they were trying too hard to change it to make it fit what they were trying to say. And so it took me out of it. Like it took me out of it too much. And so I just kind of felt like, why even bother? Why even call this Candyman at this point? Right. Why couldn't it be a different kind of boogeyman? Or like, it didn't even make sense to me, like why it was Candyman, because it was too much pulled away from the original legend, which is barely, which is kind of barely there. I mean, Tony Todd himself is in the movie for like 5 seconds, and even then he's like CGI'd, and I just was kind of disappointed. I was really disappointed in that fact that they just didn't really take the legend and just, I don't know, just make it more entertaining. I felt it was kind of boring, which was kind of surprising. There were some gruesome deaths but a lot of them were kind of used with CGI to make the character invisible, and it didn't quite feel like an interesting enough movie for me to hold my attention. I feel like they could have done a better job, which I'm quite disappointed, because Jordan Peele had he had a part of it, being a writer and a producer. So I just didn't think the horror was that great, and Candyman Legend was used as well enough. But I do like that they tried to modernize it with commentary on our current culture of police brutality, and how like a neighborhood like a Brady Green can be gentrified and what that means. But it just wasn't. They tried too hard to change that to tell its story. It wasn't fun. So that's to make a horror movie not fun is a bigger crime than anything else. So
yeah, I agree with you about the horror aspect of the film. The way that it's staged, the CGI, and the characters that it's happening to, it just kind of pulls me out of it a little bit, and doesn't even come close to being scary. I do think that the movie has kind of a nice mood, and the score was good.
Yeah, the score was good, actually.
Yeah. There are definitely things that I liked about it, but I think I liked it more than you, but I wasn't completely sold either.
Right. It reminded me of the Invisible Man movie, which I watched in theaters and thought was okay, and then I watched it at home and really liked it a lot more and appreciated it more. It's something about that movie where they try to take the Invisible Man legend and make it into something new. Really works. It's really smart. There's a lot of attention to detail. There's, I don't know, just Lee Wannell maybe is the missing ingredient for me for like Malignant, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of smarts there, and just even the attention to detail on a lot of different things. And Invisible Man had that and made the horror, because it has a similar thing with the horror where a lot of the horror is on screen and used with because it's invisible, so CGI is used, but it's done so well in that movie, in the Invisible Man movie, where here it's kind of a little bit clunky and just feels like an effect. And it's just not particularly exciting, where in the Invisible Man I felt the scenes were surprising and exciting. The action was exciting and just so well done. There was a lot of tension, and just the set, it felt like real set pieces, where this movie didn't really feel like that at all. So oh well. But maybe it's a movie I'll watch again on home video, or watch at home and say, oh, okay, maybe this will, maybe I'm just being too hard on it, whatever. But first impressions, that's what I thought. Not for me. All right. Movies that are for us, the Savage Steve Holland films. We have, let's see, there's only 3 films that we're going to talk about. So let's get into the first one. Here is the trailer.
Does it ever feel like everyone's got more going than you do? Oops. That everyone is smart.
So you're Al Myers' kid?
Yes, I am.
You look pretty stupid to me.
Thank you.
You say the best skier in town just ran off with your girlfriend? Even your younger brother does better than you do? And that nobody even cares?
Zach broke up with me.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, you might be right. But remember one thing.
I haven't even been to New York City.
Nobody was ever better off dead.
The truth is, I can outski you any day of the week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you want a race? I'll take you on any day, sucker.
Go that way, really fast. If something gets in your way, turn.
All you need is guts.
All right! Now turn!
I'm gonna race, I'm gonna lose, and I'm gonna die, in that order.
Go!
And you'll never doubt yourself again.
He's skiing on one ski!
Better off dead.
And that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
An abnormal look at a normal teenager.
Okay, Better Off Dead. Now, this is the one that started it all, of course. It introduced us to the genius of Savage Steve Holland and his filmmaking ability. Now, Savage Steve Holland in general as a director, I don't hear a lot about. I mean, when people talk about movies that made by directors with a very strong point of view, I feel like they often talk about the same people, like Tarantino, whatever. I never hear Savage Steve Holland, but Savage Steve Holland made this teen movie called Better Off Dead, and the world should have been shooken up and take notice of this movie, because this is made by a director with a totally specific point of view, and he's taking the teen genre, having a lot of fun with it, never talking down to it, making the most out of it, and making it fun from beginning to end, adding all sorts of elements to do that, whether it be animation, whether it be just to the funny editing and lots of gags. Savage Steve Holland kind of throws everything at the screen when he makes these kinds of movies, and for some reason, when directors do that, a lot of times they don't stick. For some reason, they stick in this movie and they work. I feel like every scene in this movie is kind of a classic. And just when I think of all the scenes in this movie and a lot of the set pieces, I'm like, it brings a wide smile to my face. Of course, this is about a young man who's obsessed with a girl in high school, who's kind of, I guess, a little bit outside of his social status. She's a little bit popular. She's pretty. He's kind of like, he's not really a jock or a nerd. He's kind of like one of those in-between characters, which I kind of appreciate. He's not one or the other. He's kind of, who he is. But he feels a little like, maybe he feels like a little bit like he's a little bit out of his depth with her. Because she does attract like more popular dudes. And so, when they do start dating, he becomes obsessed with her. And to the point of absurdity. Now, the absurd is really a strong thing in Savage Steve Holland films. You see the shots of Lane Meyer having tons of images of his girlfriend in his room, which was, this board. I don't wonder what younger audiences would think of this movie. Like, this guy is clearly like a stalker obsessed, right? This is not good. This is not healthy, obviously. At the time, we thought it was just funny. It was a joke, right? He's just a guy who's in love, head over heels in love. And so this is like the personification of what it means to be head over heels in love, especially when you're a teenager. You your world is there, your world becomes what they're about, right? So this movie kind of really plays with that and what that means. And of course, she dumps him and his world is crushed. And then it's the series of like Harold and Maude-esque escapades where he's kind of thinking about killing himself and of course those little vignettes of where him trying to kill himself, they all go wrong, of course, and it's played for comedy and not played, of course, for anything sad or horrific. It just works. It just, because you really are in his shoes, you're with him 100%. every step of the way, and you kind of feel for this guy. You want him to conquer the bad guys and get the girl at the end. In this case, it all leads to a ski. What is it called? The mountain. Yeah, that they're.
Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah. So this is a really dangerous mountain that they can ski down, and they have this race and see who can do it. And it's of course between him and the jock jerk who is now dating his ex-girlfriend. It's also a lot of it's like that macho kind of the feeling of you have to be physical to impress a woman. It's there. A lot of 80s movies were about that sort of thing. But here it's played for full comic effect, and that's what I love about it. There's a lot of other quirkiness to happen in this movie. Of course, there's lots of characters, lots of silliness. You get his friends. And of course, we get Curtis Armstrong from Revenge of the Nerds playing his best friend here. To full comic effect. He's really funny here in this movie. I really like him in this. I think he just adds another level of wackiness. And of course, Curtis Armstrong is a through line in the Savage Steve Holland filmography, or at least these 3 films. He's just a funny guy, and a lot of his zany antics kind of are very memorable in this movie. Diane Franklin plays foreign exchange student Monique, who's living with Ricky and his mom. Some more really memorable characters. While watching this movie for the first time, I saw this. There's a thing with these 3 movies. I saw them all in the theater. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But when first seeing this movie in the theater for the first time, I was convinced that Monique was a character who was French but pretending to be French. And then of course she just reveals herself to actually be French. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's there's a thing in the movie where she's pretending not to speak and not to understand English, or not understand English, but she does understand English. But I remember for some reason thinking, oh my God, she's totally going to reveal, or towards the end of the movie, that she's going to be like American all along. She's just kind of fooling everybody, but no, she's French. She's a great character. Diane Franklin, of course, we know and love from The Last American Virgin, or do we love her from that movie? I don't know. She kind of tears the heart out of the lead character. And then, of course, from Amityville 2, I remember having a big crush on her from those movies, which I don't know, says a lot about me. Of course, she went on to be in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and several other cult movies. So we know that we love her. I love the brother character. He's this little brother who doesn't say much, but he
shoots his leg.
He has a lot going on in this house. What's interesting about this movie and sets itself apart from a lot of teen movies at the time are the fact that this movie spends time with the parents, played by David Ogden Stiers and Kim Darby. One of the big things about 80s movies is that the parents never seem to be around. It's kind of almost a running joke in a lot of those movies. Like, the parents are never around, so it leads to a lot of the wacky antics that happen in those movies. Here, the parents are a big part of the story, but they also add a lot of zaniness to the movie, with the dad and his obsession with his garage doors and them getting broken by the paperboy, of course, the infamous paperboy who wants his $2, and then the mom, Kim Darby, who I love in a lot of movies, here playing a meek homemaker who makes a lot of weird food. Which leads me to saying this is one of my daughter's favorite movies. She didn't know the name of the movie for a while. She's like, can we watch the movie where the mom makes the weird food that moves? It's like, I knew right away what that was. So let's watch that again. And yeah, we've watched it a few times. She loves it. with good reason. I could see why kids, like little kids, would love this movie because there's a lot enough. It's very cartoony. So it's like a live action cartoon for them. There's literally like a claymation sequence in this movie. So it's literally animated, and you can see why Savage Steve Holland had a big career in animation and why he spends a lot of his time doing that or did that, because they feel like live action cartoons, but in the best possible way. Not in a way that ever feels like it's not taking itself at all seriously. I feel like the movie doesn't take itself seriously, but does enough to tell a story that makes sense from beginning to end, that goes out of its way to be entertaining and thoughtful and all that stuff. So I think he added the right amount of ingredients to this movie. There's a lot more I can even talk about. There's so much. This movie has so much texture that I can go into it, but I kind of want to hear what you have to say about it before I get there.
Sure, yeah. So talking a little bit of backstory and background, like you said, Savage Steve Holland had a background in animation, and he did the whammy on Press Your Luck. I found that out in one of the extras, awesome, which I thought was a really neat detail. I read Curtis Armstrong's book, and he has a chapter on Better Off Dead, and he talks about how he read the screenplay and really had high expectations for the movie and thought it was laugh out loud funny from the screenplay, and thought that it might actually change the face of film comedy. And movie, when it was tested, it tested really well, and then just something happened where when it came out, it just sort of landed with a thud, and in terms of box office, and it got a lot of bad reviews too. I revisited the Siskel and Ebert review, and they're focusing on the teen aspects of it, the kind of the cliche stuff, and not really seeing past that, I think. They
seem to have a real for lack of a better word, this is also because I've been watching The Sopranos, hard on for slasher movies and teen movies. They really went after them for some reason.
Yeah, they really went after the slasher movies. And I seem to recall this, but like I actually didn't see it in the review, but for some reason I remember somebody like doing a review, and they were basically really embarrassed for David Ogden Stiers for being in this movie, but he is so funny in the movie. He's really good in the movie. And I think that whenever I'm trying to describe this movie, the word that you used was absurd, and that's the one that I also kind of hit on. I think that maybe a better description I could maybe come up with more time just kind of thinking about it, but that's definitely what I'm kind of keyed into is that absurdity, like all the extreme images and his girlfriend's face on the hangers in his closet.
Yeah. It's impressive that he had such a big closet as a teenager, but
yeah, he has a giant walk-in closet. Yeah, I do love this movie. It's one of those movies that very, very distinct, like you were saying. Nothing like it. And maybe that's part of like why, I mean, watching that movie, you're sort of like, wow, your next movie has got to be just like that, because it's so specific and funny, and it's like you're just sort of hooked on that particular experience. And that's not going ahead too much, but like with One Crazy Summer, I was like kind of hoping for like another Better Off Dead. So it took me a little bit of time to kind of appreciate the movie, whereas Better Off Dead I just loved kind of instantly. And let's see what else to talk about with this movie. Yeah, I just love the running gags, just in Savage Steve Holland, just in general, both of these pictures, more this and One Crazy Summer than maybe say How I Got Into College, but just the running gags that he has, like the gag that everybody wants to date his ex-girlfriend, even Barney Rubble on the Flintstones. Yeah, it's just so funny and so fun, and just it puts a smile on my face, and it's got a great soundtrack. You'll never want to turn off I'd Like to Get to Know You Well by Howard Jones. If that ever comes on your playlist, you'll definitely don't want to skip that one.
Just by making an appearance.
But yeah, I do really love Better Off Dead, and I think that this is the one that people have gravitated towards, and certainly the $2 thing is the big thing about this movie that people remember and quote. But it's just got so many bits that are just sweet and funny, and it's just a great mix.
Yeah, it has a lot of heart to it, and some of the best teen movies are that they have the heart as well as the silliness and the hijinks. And if it's just wall to wall like silliness, that can get tiresome. But when a movie has a big heart and a big heart on the sleeve, like this movie does, you could see why you would connect to it so quickly. Whereas some movies it takes longer. It may take multiple viewings to appreciate, what it's doing. Here, you kind of like it has this big heart and sleeve, and like you just kind of fall for it, like Lane falls for both Beth and Monique. So yeah, he's a lovelorn guy with the saxophone, and so are we while watching this movie, because we fall in love with it, and not just Lane, but all the characters. And I really do like John Cusack in his movies. I feel like he's probably turned his back on a lot of these teen movies. Like at some point in the late 80s, he went on to a very fruitful career, of course, in Hollywood after this, and some big roles. So he kind of turned his back a little bit on it, from what I've heard in the past. But his characters in these 80s teen movies are just beloved. I mean, he brings such an instant charm and chemistry with the actors that you can see why, the few films that he did in the 80s where he was this teen character like this, The Sure Thing, and even One Crazy Summer, you just kind of fall in love with him because he's such he's so relatable. He's like he's an everyman character in a way. I like there's so many scenes. I like that the bad guy's name is Roy Stalin, first off. And he's kind of he has a funny way of like his delivery in this movie. I just like his delivery. And I think he was hired because the way he did the pig voice, I think it was one of the things I remember hearing that's one of the things that they liked about him. Vincent Schiavelli, whoever pronounce his name, as a teacher. I mean, that scene alone, it highlights Lane's insecurity he has a lot of insecurities, of course, and as a student, he's very insecure because he's focusing so much on his love life that he's forgetting about his studies, and the scene where he has to do the problem on the board, and he's daydreaming, but also the fact that the class is so engaged with Vincent Schiavelli's teaching is hilarious and over the top, and I love it. I just think that scene just really is a highlight in this movie. I just love how everyone's so they're just laughing, they're enjoying they're hanging on every word he says as a teacher. Of course, in reality, that doesn't happen, right? When a teacher's teaching class. So I just think it's so funny. Random scenes like when Stephen Williams is cutting a tree in a movie, and he's and the scene where Lane Meyer's in the dump truck. It's like how people are throwing out a perfectly good white boy. That whole scene. I love that scene. I love when Taylor Negron shows up in these movies. He's another through line in these three movies.
Yeah. I think he is the only two that are in all three, but I could be wrong. But they're definitely.
Yeah, he's the mailman in this one. And he has a really funny scene, and he's got another person with a really funny delivery. The way he delivers his dialogue is just really great. And of course the scene when Lane is working and the hamburger comes to life, and the whole Frankenstein thing is hilarious and perfect. There's so much to love in this movie. It's like endless scenes. I can go on. I wrote a whole big list of scenes, but I'm like, there's so much in this movie from beginning to end. Some background information about this movie. Let's see. It came out. All right. It actually had 2 release dates. It opened in limited capacity. I say it was a CBS theatrical film. So back in the 80s, CBS was trying to do their own, launch their own film line. So they were kind of that didn't work out for them, but back then they tried, and so it was distributed through Warner Brothers, but CBS Theatrical Films. They opened in limited capacity in August 25th, so in late summer, kind of like testing the waters. It opened at number 18, so maybe, and I think there was a lack of marketing maybe for this one, so not a lot of push behind it initially, but I think what they were hearing is that people were talking about it. So they opened it up again, which is kind of rare that they do this, in October 11th, and it opened at number 7. Which is healthy. And that week there were 2 other big movies that came out. It was Silver Bullet came out and opened at number 3, and Remo Williams opened at number 4. It was a very crowded summer of movies, and it was a very memorable summer of movies for me, certainly in 1985, going to see all these movies in the theater. But when I caught it in October, I didn't see that August limited capacity. I saw it in October at the Marlboro Theater. Another through line through these 3 movies for me is I actually saw all 3 of these movies in the theater, in the same theater, because they played at the same theater, which was up the block from where I lived, which I had lived for quite a few years. And so that was like a nice little continuity there. It ended up making $10.2 million. So not a great hit. I think maybe some people didn't know what to do with it because it was such a quirky teen movie. It was a bit different from the other things at the time. There were other wacky teen movies that were doing well, like Weird Science and so on, but this one is kind of maybe a little bit fell through the cracks of being a late summer release in a crowded summer. Because also playing around the same time, you had a lot of movies to go see. You had Commando, you had Jagged Edge, you had Back to the Future, Agnes of God, Sweet Dreams, After Hours, Invasion USA, Teen Wolf, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Journey of Natty Gann, Plenty, Kiss of the Spider Woman, The Gods Must Be Crazy, Rambo, Maxie, Year of the Dragon, Volunteers, The Emerald Forest, Mishima, American Flyers, Joshua Then and Now, The Doctor and the Devils, When Father Was Away on Business, Dream Child, Codename Emerald, Real Genius was still playing, Savage Island, Compromising Positions, The Stuff, Sudden Death, Cocoon, Dance with a Stranger, and Streetwalking were all playing, at least in New York City at the time. So there's a lot of movies to go see. And so this one maybe fell through the cracks. I like that. We talked about the soundtrack a little bit. Yeah, E.G. Daly is in this movie. Performing, which is another thing I love about teen movies when they have like a live performance in it. I guess that happened in teen movies and also some slasher movies. And I love that when that happened. So she gets to perform a couple of songs and they're very memorable. Other people on the soundtrack like Rupert Hine, Martin Ansell, Terry Nunn, and of course, we'll play maybe one of those songs that you mentioned on the today. It was filmed in LA, but also the mountain stuff was all filmed in Utah. Mm-hmm. So that's Better Off Dead, a movie that will always stand the test of time. I feel like now it just holds up really well. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It is a classic of the genre. And I think it's aged well because my kids certainly appreciate it now, and having, seeing it all these years later and like through new eyes, they love it. So I guess that's a testament to the movie. So hopefully new generations will get a hold of it. It's available on Blu-ray. Hopefully it will stay in print. So in years to come, I'm surprised it hasn't been honestly a collector's edition of this movie, because that's a good one for a collector's edition.
Yeah. I didn't even know. Is it in print still? I think I looked to see if it was available, and I think it was just maybe it was out of stock. I don't know, but
no.
not streaming anywhere. I did look for that, and so it's definitely a movie that people are talking about more than maybe it's accessible at the moment. But yeah, we would love to see a special edition of that.
Yeah, it's out of print. I'm looking it up now. That's
Oh,
crazy. That's crazy. Currently unavailable. Okay, so there's a problem.
yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. Universe put out there in the universe. Re-release Better Off Dead on Blu-ray, maybe as a collector's edition. Get some of the cast. Get Savage Steve Holland to talk about this movie because I feel like it's certainly worth watching again. And love it. All right, let's play a song here, and then we'll get into our next movie. Here we go. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that song. Let's get right into our next movie. Here's the TV spot.
It's going to be one crazy summer. For John Cusack, one slightly off basketball player. For Demi Moore, one slightly soaked hitchhiker. For Bobcat Goldthwait,
Hey, little boy, will you hold on to this for me?
one slightly strange babysitter.
Sorry!
And for all their slightly insane friends, it's going to be one crazy summer. Rated PG. Starts Friday, August 8th at a theater near you.
Okay, so One Crazy Summer, I did get the Warner Archive Blu-ray, and I did watch that this week, and I just really connected to it in this viewing in a way that was stronger than I had before. I hadn't seen this movie a whole lot of times. I wasn't as familiar with it as I was with Better Off Dead, but this time it just really just registered as fun for me. I think that maybe, I don't know, like I was saying before, expectations, kind of expecting more of the same. And this one is definitely a little bit different in terms of scope, in terms of how it's more focused on the ensemble than I think the first one was, or that Better Off Dead was. Basically, the story of this is a character named Hoops, who's played by John Cusack, who his name is Hoops, but he's not very good at basketball. He goes to Nantucket, and along the way he meets a girl named Cassandra, played by Demi Moore, whose house is being foreclosed upon to make some urban plans for a restaurant, a crab restaurant, I believe, and so they have to kind of help save her, and it's just so much fun. This is a movie that I think is really, really buoyed by the supporting cast. You've got Tom Villard, who was in Popcorn. He was in Surf 2, and he plays one of the brothers. His twin brother is Bobcat Goldthwait, who's kind of the breakout in this one. I think that the marketing for this picture really kind of focused on him. He sort of narrates the trailer. It's got a lot of great character names too. Bobcat's character is named Egg Stork. And like we were saying with the running gags, there's a great running gag in this one with the dog. It's not John Cusack's sister. Is it Joel Murray's or John Cusack's sister?
I think it's Joel Murray's sister.
Yeah, Joel Murray's sister, George Calamari. So her name must be Squid Calamari. And she's got the dog that's legendarily ugly, and basically it just has a cone around its head and a couple of band-aids, but everyone remarks about how ugly it is. And so that's kind of a running gag in this picture. And just like, I think I just found it so much funnier on this watch. Like some of the supporting people, like Mark Metcalf is in this movie as kind of the bad guy. The dad, his son is Teddy, who is sort of a rival to everybody basically, who has this Ferrari, and he's just he's always doing his laps. He's like, I want to do my laps. I got to do my laps in the pool. But they're both very funny in this movie. And they're both dependent upon the money from Mark Metcalf's dad. And it's just really funny how obviously they're just sucking up to him like every chance they get, whenever they see him by the pool. The granddad is played by William Hickey, who recently came off Pritzi's Honor. And so they're just saying like, oh, have a great day, have a good day. And, all these things, they're just so obviously sucking up to him. It was just so much fun. And I think it had more going on in terms of like as a production than Better Off Dead. I think that it's like a little more ambitious because there's a lot of stunts and explosions and things. And I actually liked some of I was actually impressed by some of the stunt work in this picture. There's this one scene where a bathroom kind of blows up and this guy pops out of the window and he does like a double twist as he's falling out into the water. And it was just really impressive stunt work. And then, they're shooting on the water in this movie because there's a big boat race at the end and, working with animals. So it's kind of working with, I think, maybe a little more going on filmmaking wise than Better Off Dead. But, Better Off Dead was kind of the one that I definitely grew to love the fastest. And this one just took a couple of viewings, but I'm definitely there now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was the same way. I saw it in the theater when it came out in the summer. It's just interesting that it just came out like, wow, was it less than a year after Better Off Dead? Yeah, it was less than a year. I knew it was. I knew because of the advertisement for it and the poster art. I like the big sun with the 80s, very 80s sunglasses on it. It was a cool artwork. Like, oh, this looks like a movie for me. It's got to be silly. And it was silly and fun in an 80s way, but it was lacking something at the time for me to make it as memorable as Better Off Dead. Maybe that's because, like you said, it is more of an ensemble movie. So, I mean, he's basically playing a very similar character, John Cusack. He is playing kind of the everyman character. He's a bit of more of a jock in this, but with the joke being that he's not very good at it. So you kind of like his character immediately. But there's a lot of characters, again, like you're saying, that are kind of given a lot to do. Oops, and so that kind of maybe takes you away from his story a little bit sometimes. But I, like you, have grown to appreciate that about it because I feel like the movie would have been in danger of being a clone of Better Off Dead if it focused more on like his character in that movie. And then just like having these other characters show up once in a while is like just like little in smaller doses and being like those zany characters that come into his life. Here it's a full out ensemble, and so you grow to you get more of their lives and more of their points of view, and they're all kind of different and wacky in their own ways, and it gives it a different vibe. It gives it a very summer vibe. A very crazy summer vibe. It brings a smile to my face when I see this movie. It really does, because it's very positive. I mean, there's not a lot of downtime in this movie where things aren't happening and where you have to feel sad about whatever. You kind of like it there's a bully character and some bad things happen, like a dog gets kicked and all that stuff. So, and that kind of like bums you up, but it moves on quickly to the next thing and the next character. And you're kind of, it's never boring. And that's what I enjoy about it, because there's always something going on and I like everybody in it. I like Joel Murray, and I don't know if that's an actor that I've liked in a lot of things. I liked him when he showed up on Mad Men years later. I thought he was good in that. I'm like, oh, it's the guy from One Crazy Summer. It's the Murray brother from One Crazy Summer. And I like, of course, I do like Bobcat Goldthwait, more so maybe as a director. But I like him here as one half of the Stork Twins. Of course, the other half being Tom Villard, who I actually like a lot as well. And spoiler alert, he was the villain in the movie Popcorn, which a movie that I do love a lot, and I suspect you do too, since it's set in a movie theater.
I do love that movie a lot. Yeah, it's not that huge of a spoiler because that is his IMDb photo. That away, but
there you go.
It's terrific. I mean, it just a very amiable cast, and they're given. I think they're given a lot of room to improvise. For example, the one scene that Bobcat is talking to Curtis Armstrong about this fat little kid, and he's basically describing himself as a kid, and Curtis, his character's named Ak, and he says, "Were you that fat little kid?" That whole scene was conceived by Bobcat Goldthwait, and wow. And Savage Steve Holland heard it or saw them do it, rehearse it, and then said, "Yes, let's just film it right now." And they just went ahead and did it. So I think he really gave his actors a lot of room to come up with this movie. And like you said, very quick on the heels of Better Off Dead. And I think what happened was they made a deal for this movie much before Better Off Dead actually came out in theaters, and John Cusack signed for One Crazy Summer, and basically the script was written in a weekend, and so it was heavily improvised, and a lot was added to on set. This was actually, it sounds like it was kind of a tough shoot, because like you said, John Cusack kind of turning his back on these roles, and actually while in production it didn't sound like he had a very good relationship with Savage Steve Holland, and this mostly stems from a screening of Better Off Dead that the cast and crew got to watch right before the shooting of One Crazy Summer. But listening to the audio commentary with Bobcat, with Joel Murray. Well, no, actually, it's Bobcat and Curtis and Savage Steve. You don't really hear about that. You just hear about like how much fun they had and how fondly the actors look on that film. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that movie. But it took a while to kind of warm to. I think my first viewing, as most people, watching movies in the early 80s, big fan of Curtis Armstrong. And so my first reaction was, there's not enough of him in it. He's not in it enough. But then, watching it this time, I really appreciate the fact that he is playing against type, and he's in a role that's completely different from any other comedy role that I've seen him in the 80s and maybe 90s. He seems to be doing just a whole lot of other stuff now, and not quite so much in that, kind of box of like, kind of like booger type characters, So I really appreciate that he's got this role that he's playing against type, but expectations at the beginning were just like, oh, I want to see more of him. But I can definitely appreciate the movie now, seeing it more, being more comfortable with it, being more relaxed with it, not stymied by my own expectations.
Yeah, no, I think I had a similar feeling about his character. Like I was so into Revenge of the Nerds back then, and I kind of wanted him to be more front and center. But he got the chance to play a little bit, like you said, against type, and I'm sure he appreciated that because he was so synonymous with that role. I think they were talking about it in some interview, or how he was the one that, of all the cast, that's the one that everyone would call a "Hey Booger," and there were like some big people in this movie, but he was the one that everyone wanted to say hello to and talk to because of his character in Revenge of the Nerds. And I think maybe you have to grow up a bit to appreciate his character more, because he has a bit of a sad character, and he has a bit of an arc too to his character, where some of them don't, which is nice. But everyone, again, even the villain, like Matt Mulhern as Teddy with the bleach blonde hair, very obviously bleach blonde hair. I think he's funny in the movie with his scenes with the dad character played by Mark Metcalf, and I like Teddy's little pool floaties that he's wearing. Clearly, like a child's pool floaties that he's wearing. It just they just love to take the piss out of these villain characters in these in the Savage Steve Holland movies, because in these movies the nerdier characters are the heroes, not in a cut and dry Revenge of the Nerds kind of way, but it just slyly makes fun of the villains in the best way, and the very blonde villains, of course, in the typical 80s fashion. I love that. Jeremy Piven's one of those bullies who I think Joel Murray is on record as saying he thought he was going to be cast as basically the number two, his number one rather, but he got the role over Jeremy Piven, since Jeremy Piven was such good friends with Cusack, and of course in several films with Cusack. There's lots of montages in this movie and lots of music. The soundtrack has a lot of people on it. Honeymoon Suite is on the soundtrack from, of course, they had a song on Lethal Weapon. The Eurythmics, David Lee Roth, Twisted Sister, ZZ Top, and then Martha and the Vandals and the Beach Boys have several songs on the soundtrack. That's another thing they talked about in this on an interview, is how they screened the movie for the Beach Boys individually, because I think they were like of course doing their own thing and just different places in their life, and they didn't seem to understand it. They didn't get it. They're like, one of them was like, why are there no palm trees in this movie? So they had to explain to them that it was shot in Martha's Vineyard or Shannon, not Nantucket in Cape Cod. So they had some very interesting reactions. It sounded like negative reactions to this movie. The one person we haven't mentioned is the female lead of this movie, Demi Moore, and this is where maybe to me the weak point of the movie is, because the movie does spend a good amount of time with her and Cusack's character, and then but more importantly, over the relationship between the movie is her music career. I'm not sure I'm completely sold on Demi Moore as a singer in this movie. So that's something maybe I would have, if I was like the filmmaker, could change up, I don't know, maybe recasting or just making the songs better, because I'm not sure I quite care for her in this movie as much as, say, like, of course, Monique in Better Off Dead, or even Beth. So to me, it's a minor quibble, but yeah, I kind of don't bond with her character that much in this movie.
Yeah, her songs aren't great.
Yeah, there's enough good songs in the soundtrack around hers. There's just two, but I'm just not that into them. So, and does she actually sing them? I was convinced for years that it was someone else, but I don't know. I have contrary information online, so I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't look it up, but I mean, I was convinced or I didn't question it, I guess, watching it this time.
Yeah, because they're not very strong, so I don't know. But that's a minor thing. I still enjoy the movie. Again, like for what we're saying, is like this, because there's so much in it and there's so many characters in it. Even like novelist and screenwriter Bruce Wagner shows up in this movie in a funny kind of bit where he's listening to a radio show that pays off in a funny way.
He's terrific in this movie.
Yeah, and he went on to write, he wrote one of my all-time favorite movies of the 80s, Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. He wrote that for Paul Bartel. He had a hand in the screenplay for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. He later wrote Maps to the Stars, which became a movie with David Cronenberg directed. He is also through line to the next movie too. So oddly enough, Bruce Wagner shows up in more than one Savage Steve Holland movie. I like the regatta race. I like that it leads into a race, and I think that's a fun, continuation of the first movie, like having the big thing at the ski thing at the end. Here it leads to a big regatta, and it's one of the things I really like about the film, and that they have to work together to make it work, and to beat the bad dudes. and I like how they do it. I like how that they work hard, even though the other team is cheating, and they do their best and overcome the bad dudes. And it's 80 staple plot, and I love it.
Yeah, I think the regatta stuff is better than the skiing stuff in Better Off Dead. I really love the reveal of the engine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great reveal.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And then, of course, it all kind of ties it together, because the dad cheats and shoots an arrow that causes Hoops to have to throw I don't know, whatever it is, a rope into a hoop at the very top of the sail, and so it kind of brings the movie together in a way. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, that regatta race.
Yeah, there's things that are set up and paid off, which is nice, and to have in a movie, in a comedy movie like this. And even though this movie was like made, written, shot, directed, released less than a year after its previous movie, after Better Off Dead, it still like works and holds up well. Mm-hmm. So that's a testament again to Savage Steve Holland's point of view and how much work he puts into these movies. I think even though there's a lot of throwaway gags and silliness, I think there's a lot of effort put into these movies, and I appreciate that. Background, we have was released August 8th, 1986. So this was a movie I saw around my birthday. I ended up making $13.4 million at the box office. So it made a little bit more money than Better Off Dead. I guess there was definitely more of an advertising push with this movie. I remember the advertising push. I remember that Bobcat Goldthwait was a big part of it, coming off of Police Academy 2, right? And then he was in Police Academy 3. So he was a big thing then. It played at the theater up the block from where I lived. I remember I saw this movie and Out of Bounds. I think I might have snuck into Out of Bounds after this one. And that was a big day of movies because I really liked Out of Bounds as well. That was a good movie. Good soundtrack.
Another
too.
movie, great soundtrack, yeah.
Great soundtrack. Another movie kind of stuck with rights or something because it hasn't gotten a DVD and Blu-ray release. So someone needs to rescue Out of Bounds. Okay, so it opened at number 4, which is a healthy open for a teen movie at the time. The same day, A Fine Mess opened at number 9. That's the Blake Edwards comedy and mostly forgotten. Transformers, the movie, opened that day at number 14. Which that just celebrated its 35th anniversary in screenings. I was almost tempted to go. Stand By Me opened at number 18, but that was, of course, in a very limited release. And She's Gotta Have It also played limited, opened that week, number 19. And those went on to be bigger hits. Stand By Me, of course, went to be a bigger hit at the box office, and She's Gotta Have It became an indie hit at the art houses. Also playing at the same time, Choke Canyon, which I actually paid to go see. Funny enough, Demi Moore's About Last Night was playing at the same time. That's the movie she had shot right after this one, I think. So this one beat it. And then Friday the 13th Part 6, Flight of the Navigator, Haunted Honeymoon, Back to School, Ruthless People, The Karate Kid Part 2, Maximum Overdrive, Running Scared, Howard the Duck, Aliens, Ferris Bueller, Heartburn, Vamp, Legal Eagles, Nothing in Common, Under the Cherry Moon, and The Great Mouse Detective are movies that were playing at the time. And it's weird, reading back that list, I saw a lot of those in the theater, which was, I guess I saw a lot of movies in 1986 in the theater, which is fun. There's a lot going on in this movie. I forgot to mention, you mentioned her character, the little sister character. I gotta say, she was one of the best little sister characters ever. I just really like her. I really like her spunk and her just her character was fun. Even though she's, again, no one of the characters doesn't say much, but her actions are fun. And I like the whole thing where the kids get slapped in the back and their faces, that whole thing.
That's really a weird touch, and I think that's like very Savage Steve Holland. If you were to point out something that's uniquely him, it would be something like that. That just, you wouldn't see it if from anybody else.
Exactly, it's a total Savage Steve Holland moment, and sadly there aren't enough of those in movies today. They definitely lack a personality. We're going to get into their next movie soon. But before that, let's play a song. And here we go.
Only 17
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that song. Now let's do a TV spot for our third film in our trilogy. Here it is.
Prepare yourself for getting into college.
How do you think you did, Marlon?
I don't know.
Sure you did fine.
Your skin will crawl, your heart will pound, your teeth will chatter, your bladder will fail, your brain will melt and run out of your nose. When one student tells how I got into college.
Last year, a girl took up professional wrestling and she got into Yale.
Starts Friday, May 19th at a theater near you. Check local listings.
Okay, that's the TV spot for How I Got Into College. Savage Steve Holland's final teen movie of the 80s. This one came out in 89, so that's it. That's all you get. So this one came out, I saw this again in the theater, and I guess my expectation was pretty high, right? Because of seeing the two films, Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer, a lot by this point, like renting them a lot on home video. I think I might have owned Better Off Dead on VHS, like a used copy or something. And One Crazy Summer, I'm not sure if I owned yet. I'm trying to remember which one I owned first on VHS before. But I know at some point owned all three of these movies on VHS because I watched them a lot. So I went to see this in the theater. My expectation was high, again, because of just rewatch value. And I noticed that it was definitely a different vibe. It wasn't quite as consistently wacky. There were a lot more adult characters. So maybe it was like Savage Steve Holland growing up a bit and trying to make a story that was a little bit more, going to college, right? Like, so it's like you're going to college. When you're going to college in real life, you're like, okay, you think you're an adult. it's time for the real world a bit. That's maybe the movie reflected that a little bit for me at the time. That's what that part of your life is. Okay, you're going to college. You take things a little bit more seriously. Not everything is like a zany moment. So the movie was a little bit of a reflection of that, but I enjoyed it though. I thought because I was really into the idea of going to college by this point. I was in 1989, so I was turning 14. So that's the right age for this kind of movie. Of I want to be older. I want to be 18. Going to college, living in a dorm, especially the idea of being at a college that wasn't near where you lived was a big plus. And of course, these characters are trying to get into a college that is far away from where they are, and also something a little bit beyond their depth. Certainly for the lead character played by Corey Parker, who is again following the tradition of Savage Steve's first two movies, is a character who's in love, right? He's a character who's lovelorn, kind of a little bit nerdy, but not very smart at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I like the contradictions of these movies, like where you get a sports guy who's not very good at sports, you get a nerdy guy who's not really smart. And he's in love with this girl, and he's about to follow her to a college that he can't get into because his grades aren't very good. He doesn't test very well. And then a lot of the movie is about, of course, getting into college. How do you get into college when you can't, when you don't have the grades to do that? And a big part of this movie, I would say, is the admissions shenanigans with this college of their dreams that is maybe not quite. I don't know if it doesn't quite. As an adult, I don't know if a lot of this movie is that realistic, but certainly as a teenager, you kind of buy into it. This is kind of how it goes down. I just was really into it. I remember just how he wants to get to this Ramsey College, right? And so all the zany antics of him trying to do that, whether it's whether he takes up wrestling and there's daycare and there's all these things he's trying to do is just to look good to get into the school. And I kind of like that aspect of the movie. I thought the lead actors were charming, especially Lara Flynn Boyle as the object of his affection. I thought that was a big step up from One Crazy Summer, because I did like her. I thought she was relatable, and the movie does take, which it doesn't do in the first two movies as much. It kind of focuses on the female character for a bit of the movie. So it kind of switches points of view, where the first movie stays solely with the Lane character and sometimes the parents. The second movie is more of the ensemble, but you don't really get a lot of the female character other than her music. And here, the third character, the Lara Flynn Boyle character, Jessica, you get to see her anxieties and her just her kind of personal plight into getting to college. And what that means, and that plays off in a kind of a funny and funny way as well. And I think she does a good job actually with that. So if I was to say there's a standout of the cast, I would think it would be her in this movie. I do like Anthony Edwards. So we talked about Revenge of the Nerds. Here he plays this. So is he the head of the admissions? I can't remember now. Like how does that work with the dean?
The dean is leaving, and so that job is kind of up for grabs.
Right. So it's all these people jockeying to be the dean of the school, and trying to get the best possible candidates into the school to look good, right? And that's part of, I guess that maybe is a true aspect of some schools. Certainly Ivy League education. So it gets into that kind of stuff as well as the teen stuff. So it's kind of a divide between that. So there's a bit of a more of an, like One Crazy Summer, more of an ensemble. Charles Rocket is one of those, as kind of like a foe, right? He's another person who's trying to admit the best possible candidates or high prestige candidates into the school. As well as the Flutter character who was tricked into admitting a pig into the college, and that's of course a source of embarrassment for him, and they endlessly tease him about. I like that stuff, and then some of the other kids that might get into the college, it focuses a little bit on them, gives them a little bit of moments. Some other cast members. There's a lot of good people in this movie. Anthony Michael Hall, but Anthony Edwards. You have Brian, another Murray in this movie. Brian Doyle Murray playing the coach. You have Philip Baker Hall. He's the dean, right? And then Robert Ridgely. Wow, two actors from movies by PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson in this movie. Richard Jenkins is in this movie. Nora Dunn and Phil Hartman are in this movie. There's a lot of good people who kind of pop up. Even Diane Franklin pops up in this movie. Bruce Wagner, I mentioned earlier that he was going to pop up in this. Here he plays one half of A and B, the two characters who are imaginations of the Corey Parker character and these SAT questions, and they come to life in his head. They're played in fun ways. Maybe not quite as memorable some of the other jokes in Savage Steve Holland's movies, but I enjoyed them enough. Taylor Negron again coming back, playing the mailman character from the first movie. Which I like that callback. So there's a lot of fun moments in this movie. There's kind of sprinkled throughout. It's not quite like, the ratio is definitely off from the first two movies. I said there are some misses to all the hits, but it's still I enjoy that about it. This was a work for hire for Savage Steve Holland. I think he replaced the original director. This wasn't his screenplay, but you certainly see him in the script. You could probably see him in the improvisations. so it's not lacking his voice, but it's definitely toned down, I would say, because again, it's not his project from beginning to end. It's something he was hired to do. But I really have grown to appreciate it more over the years, I guess, because I find it nostalgic. It takes me back to that time of being 14 and wanting to be in college and what that experience may be like. And the movie does have a heart to it. Watching it now, like that's what does it. It is going that has going for it, where some of the jokes maybe not stick and land as well. So yeah, I'm into it. So yeah, this is definitely one that I will probably watch more now that I've grown to enjoy it more over the years. How about yourself?
Yeah, this is one that I don't think I've even seen. I'd seen bits of it on TV. I don't think I'd seen the entire thing until just for this podcast. And I liked it as well. And I think that, like you said, being a work for hire, Savage Steve Holland's voice is kind of muted, but it's in there. There's certain things that are probably, reminiscent, or that are definitely reminiscent of his other films, like the A and B character, like that running bit.
Yeah.
And also, some kind of silly things like that marching band that's following the two guys around. I agree with you about Laura Flynn Boyle. I think that's sort of the strongest stuff in the movie, is that sequence where she's going to her admissions meeting, and her anxiety about that, and the pig stuff kind of pays off in that scene as well. Not as much, like payoff like in the previous films, but it's still a good movie. Different cast, like you were mentioning, all the folks that are new to this one. You do have some people kind of returning, like Curtis Armstrong is in a very funny little bit. He's in the movie for, like a minute maybe. And Dan Schneider returns for just a few seconds. Dan Schneider, who was Ricky from Better Off Dead. And like you said, Bruce Wagner and Taylor Negron. And that was a really good bit when Taylor Negron shows up as the mailman, and the main character is eagerly awaiting his college acceptance letter, and it turns out to be Ed McMahon, Publishers Clearinghouse letter that he asks the mailman to read to him.
For a long time, in my head, that scene was in Better Off Dead, and then I forgot. Oh yeah, it was in the other one because it's playing basically the same character.
Yeah. And then Charles Rocket, I think I need to mention him because he's just so convincing as just this kind of slimy jerk character. I'm sure he was a nice guy in real life, but boy, he really nails this role.
A similar role he played in Earth Girls Are Easy. He's kind of a slimy character in that too, which he had done the year before this.
Yeah. I liked it, and it's not on the same level as the other two pictures, but I do enjoy the movie. It was fun. It was definitely a good watch to kind of cap off this trilogy.
Yeah, it's like a fun teen movie that you don't have to invest a lot into it, and maybe you don't get as much in return as the other two movies, but you don't invest too much in it. You just enjoy it and for what it is. It has a sweet nature about it. And that's enough. I guess you could tell the parts where he was like stuck with certain actors. But I think he definitely lucked out with engaging leads with Corey Parker and Lara Flynn Boyle. I don't know if like John Cusack would have done this movie at this point. He was already on to bigger things, I think. And maybe too old to play a teenager in his head, at least. So Corey Parker is kind of a substitute here, and I think it works enough. And you do like him. He actually played another role, another college movie the same year, Big Man on Campus, which I rewatched during the pandemic last year. I was going through all the streaming channels, like, oh, what kind of bullshit is on here? I want to watch something streaming because I'm always watching DVDs and Blu-rays, and I came across a HD Prime airing of Big Man on Campus. I'm like, oh my god, I remember this movie, but don't remember it at the same time. Like I remember when it came out on VHS for Vestron Video. Like I need to rewatch this movie. And he has a role in that movie, and he's a little bit different in that one. He's kind of a little bit more of the wiseacre kind of side character, but he kind of forms a bond with the hunchback character in that movie. I liked it. I ended up liking A Big Man on Campus as well. So, but maybe I'm easy when it comes to late 80s movies. I feel like I do like a lot of them. And like a movie like this, like it's like an easy watch for me because it doesn't, again, not too much invested in. It's just a frivolous movie, but again, at the same time, I think it has some real anxieties about going to college and for teenagers, especially at that age, and certainly kids who were my age at the time who were kind of obsessed with the idea of that and what that would be like. It's a fun outlet for that too. So it was enjoyable. There's some interesting, we mentioned Robert Ridgely and Philip Baker Hall in this movie, alums of PTA. It shares the same DP of a lot of those movies. Robert Elswith shot this movie. The same guy, helms most of his movies. Shoots a lot of Inherent Vice, There Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia, and so on. He also did like a lot of other movies like The Town, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Bad Influence, and movies as different as Steel Magnolias and Return to the Living Dead 2 are. And another not quite teen but teen-esque movie, Moving Violations, that I love. And funny enough, he shot a Cusack movie that I mentioned before, The Sure Thing, that I love. So he's definitely a favorite in terms of DPs. I think he does a good job with the way the movies look. I think this one looks pretty good. It had a decent budget. It had $10 million budget going to the background. Released through 20th Century Fox. It made a grand total of $1.6 million at the box office, which is ouch, right? A big step down.
Yeah.
Big step down.
Kind of got dumped.
It got dumped, and it opened in May 19th. So yeah, it debuted at number 11. It made $651,850 that weekend it came out, which is not a big number. It opened against Roadhouse, which came in number 2. But also that came out that day, Fright Night Part 2 came out at number 15, which is another movie that kind of got dumped, and but a very worthy sequel. Miracle Mile, great movie, came out that same day, number 17. And For Queen and Country. Also playing at the same time, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Field of Dreams, K9, Pet Cemetery, Major League, Rain Man, Scandal, The Dream Team, Say Anything, Criminal Law. So Say Anything was open. It played against a Cusack movie. Criminal Law, Earth Girls Are Easy. We just mentioned that. Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Lost Angels, Little Vera, Return to Swamp Thing, Miss Firecracker, Teen Witch was playing at the time for like 1 week only, probably. Heathers, some good teen movies, huh? New York Stories, Getting It Right, Signs of Life, How to Get Ahead in Advertising, The Terror Within, The Horror Show, Listen to Me, Cold Feet, and The Rainbow were all playing, at least in New York City, that weekend. I saw at the Marlboro Theater, so the same theater for Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer. But what I did was I snuck into a random movie. I don't know what it was. Like I was like, I'm just gonna go to seeing something else. And I went in. It was like already playing. For years I couldn't remember what this movie was. I looked it up. Fist Fighter. That's what I went to see after How I Got into College. I don't remember the movie much at all. It was very different from How I Got to College. I remember that. Again, I enjoy this movie. It's a Savage Steve Holland film, even though he's just a replacement director. It still has his touches. It still has his brand of comedy. It has good people again. And Nora Dunn and Phil Hartman have a very funny bit kind of a joke that runs throughout this movie. I thought they were good. So I forgot to mention them earlier, but yeah, I'm a fan of it, even though it's not ever going to be considered top-notch 80s teen movies, but certainly worthy to be in print, even though it's been long out of print on DVD. So hopefully Disney will allow people to pick up some of their catalog titles again. That would be nice.
That would be nice. I don't know what they're doing, really, what their strategy is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know from what I hear, they own a big stake in Hulu, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in a year or two's time, they're going to outright own it. So maybe the idea is to dump a lot of the Fox titles on Hulu and just to have, to have catalog on there. I don't know, but I think these movies are I'd rather own a physical copy myself. And then, I have the DVD. I'm thankful that I have it, but I really think more people should watch some of these movies. It's a crime that Better Off Dead is not on Blu-ray, not still in print on Blu-ray, and this one's not available on Blu-ray at all. It just would be nice, I think, for people to have that option instead of wishing, hoping, and praying and streaming, and half the time it's not or more. So, but yeah, big fan of his movies. He went on to a big career, I guess, in kids television. It seems like doing a lot of like kids TV shows, and he still seems to do that. I think he found his niche as a job in Hollywood, and whether it's like making like teen television shows for Netflix or whatever the streaming service is, directors like from the 80s, a lot of them are struggling still to have a career or just gave up and are on to other things. So he still seems to have a bit of one. So I'm thankful for that. Yeah. I'm a big fan of his movies, and I hope other people are too.
Yeah, he's definitely a prolific children's TV director. He's sort of embraced that role. I think he has his own studios even. Once that happens, he sort of drops off my radar. So it's not just something that I really follow, but
right.
Yeah, but boy, I sure like those first two pictures in particular that we talked about today. So I think this was a great idea for a discussion today.
Yeah, he's definitely left an indelible mark on the teen film genre that we love so well. When I think of a lot of the directors that came out of the 80s teen movies, obviously John Hughes is mentioned all the time, but Savage Steve Holland always comes to my head. So I'm a big fan of him. Thank you guys for supporting the show. It was fun talking about these movies. More to come, and I would like to record more with you, David, if you're into that.
I would definitely.
And then one day, maybe we'll go. Maybe I'll be in your neck of the woods. We can see something together. That'd be great. Some kind. Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, thank you guys for supporting the show, and we'll talk to you soon. So we'll have a new episode probably for October. Will be some scary stuff coming up. Ooh, can't wait. Thank you guys. And thank you, David. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Take care. Ciao for now.
Open our hearts.
Charles.
Oh, hold on, wait a minute. Wait 1 second. I think I'm onto something here. This is pure snow. It's everywhere. Have you any idea what the street value of this mountain is?
Charles.
Wait a minute, hold it. Ah! Outrageous! I think I froze the left half of my brain! Look! I can't move my right arm!
Dog farmers! Dog farmers! It's so ugly, someone put it to sleep.
Girls, you know if you make faces like that and somebody slaps you on the back, you'll stay that way forever. Go on, go on! Have a nice summer.
There sure are some ugly-looking kids running around here.
Teen movies are usually all humor or all horror. And with a title like How I Got Into College, most audiences would think they're in for the latter, since the idea of getting into college can strike terror into the heart of any high school student. But on the set of How I Got Into College, humor, not fear, is what makes the grade. Star student Corey Parker had to cram in making the shift from serious Epstein in Biloxi Blues to Marlon, a guy with low SATs but high marks in the funny man class.
They're opposite ends of the spectrum. Biloxi is more like, I mean, the character I played was real serious and had, you know, a lot of stuff going on. He was totally alienated and stuff. And this is, he's a loner, but, you know, much more outgoing, much more outgoing. I mean, the set on Biloxi was like, you know, it's a serious film with a serious director, and, you know, it was great. But this is just zany. Zany and kooky and all those things.
The headmaster of all this is Savage Steve Holland, a scary moniker for a devilish director.
Well, he's a madman. He's a wild man. He's great. He's just better than his reputation. He's got this infectious, fun kind of just humorous energy, as they say. He's a practical joker, and he's great.
Top Gun's Anthony Edwards is another actor under Savage Steve's cane in How I Got Into College.
I call him SS Holland, like, you know, a ship that might hit an iceberg, so it kind of keeps things humorous. I like Steve a lot. He's great. He obviously loves comedy, and he loves what he does, and you can't ask for more than that.
Another familiar face, this time from the small screen's Moonlighting, has a lot of experience with the Savage Steve school of thought.
Coming in to do this thing today was just, it was just like the old days. The other nice thing is that Steve uses the same people all the time. He uses as much as he can actors and crew from his previous things. So it's also nice because it's sort of homecoming.
The school day spirit of How I Got Into College is certainly carried along by the cast and director. They were sorry to be reminded that recess was over and it was time to go back to work.
Yes? You got a rehearsal down here, please? Ah, God. Anyway, about me. Yeah,
I think we
you
had
guys
enough
take it over.
about you.
Did you hear enough?
I think we're...
It's a funny movie.